What is going on, guys? So today I'm going to be going over the difference of taking a time lapse on a phone versus a DSLR camera. And in this case, I'm going to be shooting on an iPhone 11 Pro, and I've got the Sony a7R III and the Sony a7 III. There's going to be a huge difference in doing this. You know, at the end of the day, either way, you're going to come out with a time lapse, but I just kind of want to talk the differences, the benefits of each, and just kind of the ups and downs of shooting a time lapse on both. Alright, so first and foremost, just going to talk portability. Obviously, an iPhone can fit in your pocket, which makes it super easy to carry this around. If you want a time lapse, you can do it almost at just the click of a button. As far as a camera goes, you know, there's a lot more equipment you need. You might need a tripod, you're going to need lenses, you might need an intervalometer if your camera doesn't have internal time lapses. So there's going to be a lot more baggage with the DSLR, which is definitely a downside of taking a time lapse on this, but you know, if you're a photographer, you're going to be carrying this stuff anyways. Second, I'm going to talk about setup. So in here on my iPhone, it is so easy to make a time lapse. You pull up your camera, slide over to the time lapse button. On the iPhone 11, you have the option of doing a wide time lapse, a standard time lapse, or a telephoto time lapse. It's really just 2x of the standard time lapse, which is super nice and convenient because you have a little bit more flexibility than you do in past phones, which is pretty awesome. And don't get me wrong, the quality of an iPhone is incredible, so much so that when I'm hiking, there's a good amount of times where I'm just vlogging on this because it's so easy. But for time lapses, it's a little bit different of a story. And also, if you didn't know this, I'm just gonna pull up the settings on an iPhone. So in here, this is where you can change all of your camera settings on your phone. You can change the recording quality, you can change the frame rate, you can change your slow-mo rate. You know, the iPhone does have some incredible specs for a phone. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, this is in the settings tab where you can change all of that stuff if you didn't already know that. And as far as setup goes for shooting a time lapse on a DSLR, there's a lot more setup. You know, I can either, if I'm out on a hike or something, I can balance this on a rock or whatever I can find, which I have done many times if I don't want to carry a tripod. But otherwise, I will set up a tripod, put the camera on top. Either if your camera has an internal kind of time-lapse feature, you can just set up a few buttons, your interval, your stop time, all that stuff. It only takes a few seconds. Or if you have an intervalometer, you're just gonna plug that in to the port on your camera. And then same thing, you know, on the intervalometer, you're gonna have a start time, interval, all that stuff. Super easy, but it definitely takes a little bit longer than the setup on an iPhone. The iPhone is just a few seconds, where the setup on the camera is probably going to be around a minute, which is still super short. And next up, I want to talk quality. So although the iPhone is incredible on its quality and its specs, and every phone just keeps getting better, you know, the quality of this time lapse is not going to be great. You will have a time lapse, you know, you can use it. It's good B-roll, it's cool if you want to just capture moving clouds or moving cars or something. It will do a time lapse. It'll do exactly what you want it to. But you're just gonna have a shortened video. It's gonna look like a sped up video. It's not gonna look like a smooth time lapse. It's just gonna look like the iPhone recorded a long video and sped it up, which is essentially what the iPhone does when it does a time lapse. Whereas the quality on a DSLR camera is gonna be huge. It's gonna be so much different because depending on your camera, you can either have your camera make the video for you, but based on your interval, it's not gonna always look like a sped up video. It can if you want it to, but it can also look like a nice flowing time lapse over the course of a longer time rather than like what the iPhone will do. Also, the biggest thing on the camera is that you get the raw images. So for me, I'm always shooting raw, which means I have the most pixel information in my photos. The photos on a 24 megapixel camera, which is pretty standard. The specs are 6,000 by 4,000, which is essentially 5K, which is such high quality, it's insane. So when you have these images, you're actually able to color them in RAW like you would a photo, and then you turn it into a video. It's a much longer process, and it's a lot more tedious than the phone, but for good reason. The quality is out of this world. You know, this is the type of stuff you'd see in movies and stuff like that. And for this camera in particular, this is 42 megapixels, so this actually shoots 8K time lapses, which is unbelievable. That's the stuff you see in like IMAX movies and things. So there's gonna be a massive quality difference. This is gonna be kind of just for fun time lapse, and this is gonna be the cinematic, professional, movie type time lapse. This is gonna be insane on a DSLR camera, whether 24 megapixels or 42 megapixels. So again, there's so many differences between whether you're gonna shoot a time lapse on a phone or on a camera. Obviously, I think the intention is probably the biggest and most important part. I don't think I have ever taken a time lapse on a phone. The one I'm using in this video, my friend Brover actually took when we hiked Old Rag Mountain, and I'm comparing it with the time lapse that I took on my A7 III of that same morning, same exact scene. So as you guys can see, there's a huge difference. But for Brover, you know, he was just doing that for fun. He wanted it for his memory of that morning hike, and that is great. But for me, you know, I want to make short films from this stuff. I want to make vlogs. I want to make educational stuff like I am right now. And for that, I just want the best quality possible. And I'm also going to be putting this stuff on black box, so I'm going to be selling it for stock footage. So I'm always only shooting time lapses on my camera. Again though, you know, based on your intention, it's whatever you want to do. If you don't have a camera, then by all means, take the phone. It's great. It's going to give you a time lapse and do everything you need. But if you're looking for that professional cinematic, you know, Mercedes-Benz or Ferrari, you're gonna wanna do it on a DSLR camera, and then you're gonna have to edit it in post and put all the images together. But in the end of the day, it is so worth it, and it's gonna bring you some amazing videos. I hope this little bit of a comparison video helped you guys. You know, if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to know about time lapses, just leave them below in the comments, and I'm happy to get back to you or help in any way I can. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on a future video.